And we're this is the last, but definitely not the least, conversation we're going to be having. Thank you for joining us today, Iri. How are you? How have you been doing?
Thanks. Thanks for having me. I'm all right. I mean, all things considering, I think I'm doing pretty good.
All right, cool. That's awesome. So, just to hop in a little bit straight, I see you have a very interesting background. You come from like a non-traditional
Okay.
path. Actually, a lot of women have been in like from non-traditional paths, doing different things in tech. I think it's really amazing. And then, I see that you transition into like front-end development and now you're like the co-founder of like Bitcoins. You're technical, so you're like leading, engineering there. Would you mind, walking us through that journey and like highlighting some of the key factors that might have influenced you towards this path?
Okay. Well, I don't know. I feel like from my experience, it just kind of felt like things were just happening. It wasn't necessarily all that planned or anything. It's not like when I first started, I was like, oh, I'm about to, I don't know, found a tech company or something. I was just doing this out of interest. Like coding or with making websites rather was just a hobby I was doing for a long time without even realizing it was something I could do as a job. So that's why I went and studied like psychology and law, because I didn't really consider it like an option. And it wasn't until after I did both of those degrees that I actually like rediscovered it and decided I wanted to try and actually take it seriously, because it was something I've always been interested in. So I just did some like courses or just like kind of teaching myself basically through reading blogs and just a lot of practice. And I did freelance for a while, then I got my first job and it kind of just progressed from there. I was more just focused on what I thought the next good thing would be for me, not necessarily thinking like, oh, in 5 years, I want to be where I am now. It's kind of just like, what was the next thing, and feeling like whatever I was in might not have been the best. And so, like, what can I do to advance?
All right, cool. So I see like I'd like to think personally that you're influential in the tech space, especially in Nigeria. People like, following your blog about bits of code, you're the first Google developer expert. How did you start that out? Was it like, did you know that like you were going to be influential in this space? Did you know that this was going to go this far?
Definitely not. I wasn't really going of it that way. Like when I started my blog, it was more like to give myself a platform, but mostly to be able to get a job, because at the time I was, like I said, I was self-taught. I didn't know anybody in the industry, and I was just listening to some podcasts which said, oh, starting a blog would be a good way to um I guess kind of plug yourself to some extent so that you can be more desirable to employers. So that's basically why I was doing it. I wasn't doing it necessarily to become an influencer in the space. And then I also got into speaking and stuff, mostly just like, I don't know, I guess they kind of led into each other. So that's how that came about. But I wasn't really thinking about it as be an influencer at first. It was just more doing things that was interesting and challenging to me.
Cool. So I want to get a sense of like being a co-founder. Like, how did you start out Bitcoins? What led to it?
It actually just started as a side project. Myself and Timmy were working on, we had done a bunch of other side projects together. And this was, from my perspective anyway, it was just like another one that was interesting. And it was a really nice challenge because it's like a completely new space, and even globally, it's not something there's one way to do it. It was still something that everybody is trying to figure out what's the best way, especially from like a user experience point of view. So it just seemed like an interesting challenge, and we got into it, and it kind of just started and it grew and it became more and more of like a real company. And before I knew it, we were like in Y Combinator and all of these things. So yeah, it was just kind of like, it just happened basically.
Okay, that's cool. And to just follow up, creating a startup, I feel like it takes a lot. Like, what was your biggest challenge in starting out your company? Like, how did you navigate through that problem too? I think that would be a really good insight for us to know.
Well, I feel like the actual starting of it was kind of like really easy. I think what's difficult is the space we are in now, or the space we've been in for the past maybe year, because I think just starting it is pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. But when you get to the point where you're actually having to keep up with like regulations and like having to actually properly establish and be compliant and things like that, that's I think where the difficult part is, because it's quite easy to just build a product and put it out there and say, oh, I've launched a company, but it's much harder to make it more established and make it like actually succeed.
Okay, cool. And to follow up on this, on the technical side of things, do you remember like a specific experience where you wish like Bitcoins had done something different? Like, what would you have done to like change that right now?
I mean, technically speaking, we've just made so many mistakes as well, just in terms of like actual coding mistakes and just things that like, I don't know, we're like programmers, right? So there's always going to be bugs. But the problem for us is that if there's a bug, it's like to do with people's money, right? So there's actual real consequences to that. So stuff like, oh, you need to make sure that people can't click a button more than once so that they're not sending multiple requests. Those are like mistakes that we made early on and we had to really learn. And because of the nature of what we're doing, it's not like an easy lesson. You have to pay for it with like actual money. So I think those kinds of things are like stuff that we had to learn. And that's why I said like just starting the company is easy, because building version 1 is easy, but then making sure that all of these things are working the right way and going back and being more detail oriented, that's what's been more difficult.
All right, and to follow up on this, like, what is something you're doing, you or Bitcoins, that you wish everyone in the tech space is actually doing?
Well, I guess I would mention like the internship program that we've been doing. We've only done it for 1 year so far, but it's something we definitely hope to do. And it's like specifically for women, to try and encourage more women to join the industry. And I think we obviously have a very big imbalance with gender and a number of other things, but gender is one of them. And I think just being a bit more conscious of that and doing what you can to try and contribute to leveling that playing field, I would say I wish a lot more companies were paying attention to.
Do you think students actually, like, do you find it easy? Like, I'm just trying to think about the pipeline and structure for like an internship, right? Do people, because I know usually in Nigeria when people study, they usually like to take an internship in like their second year or something like that.
Yeah.
Is there a structure, first of all, for you to find the interns you're looking for? Has it been easy to also find, women looking for internships? Were you able to find candidates?
Yeah, definitely. Like when we did our first program like almost a year ago now, we were able to find people, but obviously it's also about the right type of person. And even though it's an internship, it's not like we're looking for someone, or that it doesn't matter that they don't have like technical experience, but we're still looking for someone who seems keen and able to learn. So it's still a bit of a struggle, but it's not like there are no women out there. There are obviously many women. It's just about finding them. And yeah, you just put it out there and you'll definitely find people.
Definitely. Cool. So, speaking on like, advocating for women in this space, I see that you've won a scholarship that, for women who want to self-learn and develop their like software engineering skills or software development skills. How is that? I'm curious, how is that going so far?
I think it's going Well, I guess it depends what you mean by well, because for me, I think I have very high hopes in that. I want everybody that gets a scholarship to always finish. And I think the first time I did it, it wasn't, I think I only like 4 out of 7 people completed it. And the second time I did it, all 10 people completed it. And this time I think only maybe a couple of people didn't complete it. So I think ultimately it is going well. Um, but obviously it would be better if everybody completed it. But maybe that's just my own unnecessarily like stringent standards.
But like the second one seemed like a high success rate, which is 100%, right? Like what?
Yeah, exactly. So that went very well. Yeah.
So like how? What do you think might have caused that? Did you do something differently then, or you don't know? Like,
To be honest, I'm not really that sure. But I think for at least for this latest batch, I think one, there were more people, so it was definitely harder to keep track of everyone.
mm,
And I think going forward, I knew that the limits in each batch should probably be like 10 so that I can actually maybe speak to each person one on one. And it's not just be get the scholarship and then you go. Maybe there can be more of like a guiding or just like, oh, you can actually reach out for help and stuff. And I know like this time I didn't really have that much time to do that. So maybe that's what it is. There needs to be some kind of combination of um I don't know if I would call it mentorship, but some sort of like help or just relationship there.
okay,
Maybe.
okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. So like with it, do you have like a vision for it in the sense of like, do you see yourself expanding this with, let's say, like others who might be interested in like being involved in this? Like, has that come to your mind, or do you plan on doing that?
Yeah, so that's what I'm a bit like unsure about because like I said, I think keeping it relatively small each batch is best just because it's not just a give and go. It's more about checking in every now and again and making sure everything is going well. So I don't know that we would be able to really expand in that way because then I can't like obviously keep track of so many people each particular batch. And people have definitely reached out to me to say, oh, they want to like donate so that I can do even more people. But I think it's something I'm still trying to figure out, like what would actually be the best way to do that. And I don't know, maybe you can tell me or I can have suggestions because I'm still trying to figure it out, to be honest.
Um, I'll think about it. I'll probably reach out to you and just
Okay.
think about it. I'm not 100% on
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
You know,
Yeah.
all right, that sounds pretty cool. So like, I know you transitioned here, but and you, it's like as if that you kind of just ended up here. You just had an interest in coding, and then you just kind of I'm here.
Yeah.
You're a founder, and you're technical, and you're doing a lot of cool um, development stuff. But like, if you weren't doing this, or if it somehow didn't end up in this space, what do you think you might have been doing?
You mean like if I wasn't in the tech space at
Yes,
all?
yes.
I would be a lawyer because that's what I was doing. So I was studying law. I did my master's in law, and at that, when I graduated, I gave myself like a year to see if I can actually make doing this tech thing work, and if not, I would go back to doing law. And I enjoyed actually studying law because I never got to the point of practicing. But I think I would enjoy it. And my mom is a lawyer, so she'll be very happy to like pass down the tradition or whatever. But I think I would enjoy it. So that's probably what I would be doing.
Cool. And transitioning to this space, was it hard? And I mean, it most likely was, but like, what was your biggest challenge, in doing so?
Um, it was definitely hard. It wasn't as hard as it might be for other people because I think the biggest thing for me is that I had support like from my parents, like financial support. So it wasn't like from the day I graduated, I needed to start making money up for myself. So I did freelance, and although I did make some money, it wasn't like I was making enough money to like fully support myself. So that's one thing. Like I obviously had like the wiggle room to like actually figure it out. But what I would say is like for me, there was a big turning point to deciding whether or not to actually go for it because when I graduated and I said, oh, I was really interested in this, I kind of consulted with like my mom and like uncles and things like that, and siblings. And they, for the most part, just said like, this isn't really a career. Like, this is just like, what exactly is this? And I think I don't know what made me not listen to them, but I think it could have really gone either way. And I'm glad that I decided not to listen to them, because I knew I had done the research, and I knew that just because they didn't necessarily understand it, that doesn't mean that it's not like a valid thing to do. So really like listening to myself in that situation and deciding to actually go for it was one of the most important decisions.
Cool. And I'd like to know, what would you say to our audience, like who may be trying to like start out in tech, or like who just want to transition? What do you have to say to them?
I think if you have an interest in this, it's a difficult thing to do, but it's definitely something you can do. I don't think coding is something that is not doable to people. It's just obviously a difficult thing. So obviously there'll be ups and downs, but if you are passionate about this and you believe that it's something you can do, then you should really like trust and listen to yourself. Like the experience I had, just kind of trust and listen to yourself, and it will eventually work out, because it's like it's an industry where there's always going to be people needed, especially now. And it's definitely something that you should pursue if you are interested in it.
And finally, like I know, like you're a founder. Many people might be thinking of starting up their startup. What do you have? How can they go about it? Like, I'd like to think that Bitcoin has crossed a lot of milestones and gone this far. Like, what would you say to people who are trying to create their own startup? Where can they find the resources they need? Like, where can they go? I feel like many questions people might have starting out is like, first of all, where do I go from here? I've created this app, or I've created this thing, or I have this idea. How can I, push it forward?
Well, that's a good question. The thing is that, like, I don't know, maybe just for us, or I think it's just one of those things that is going to be different for everyone. And I don't think anyone necessarily has like a guidebook for how to do it. It's like one of those things that you really just learn as you're doing it. Especially, we even learned this when we were like doing Y Combinator. All of these companies, you kind of just start and you figure it out as you go, because I can't necessarily, I can, I guess, kind of tell you how to do another Bitcoins, right? But I can't necessarily give you a guidebook for these are the resources, this is exactly what you need to know to start a business. And I think particularly with tech, it's one of those things that you should just basically start and you'll learn what you need to learn as you go. Obviously, when it comes to things like the legality of like owning a company and stuff, you can speak to lawyers and figure that stuff out. But besides that, you kind of have to just do it, really.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I have for you. We do have one question in the chat. We see someone said, I'm interested in interning with you. But let me try and rephrase that into a question. Do you have like, how does your internship program work? How does it work, rather?
Yeah, so we're actually about to start a new batch pretty soon. And what I would say is like the best way to find out the information is just by following us on Twitter, and you'll find out the information there. So whenever we're ready, we'll like post it on there, and then you'll see details of how to apply and all of that stuff.
All right. We have a question here. Ira, do you see access to devices such as laptops and testing smartphones as a problem to women in technology? How can it be solved?
Yeah, that is a valid problem. I don't think I have an answer about how it can be solved, because it isn't just it's like a developing country, or it's a Nigeria problem, really, like people not really having access to computers or internet. And yeah, I don't think I actually have a solution to that problem. But yes, I do recognize that it is one of the issues. Even when I'm running the the scholarship program, I can actually only give the scholarship to someone who already has a laptop and access to internet, because I can't also provide those things. And that, of course, will then cut off a lot of people. And I'm not sure what the solution to that is yet, especially when we're thinking about the whole country. It's not like only in Lagos where I am, where I can maybe offer that kind of service, but how do I offer it to somebody who I can't, like, I'm
Reach.
not physically close to? So yeah, it's, I guess, a work in progress.
Work in progress. All right. Someone
Yeah.
said, curious to know how buy coins and how it works. What were the challenges you faced trying to scale, and how did you go about solving them?
Okay, so Bitcoin's crypto is a cryptocurrency exchange. We allow people to buy and sell various cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Litecoin, USD coin, etc. Um, for us, I think it was more about like growing, and even just things like trying to open a bank account in the US, for example. That was extremely, extremely difficult because banks in the US don't want to deal with a Nigerian crypto company, right? So it's really only through maybe like the validation of going through Y Combinator that we're able to even do things like that in the first place. So that's like an example of like one of the major issues that we had. And like I said, really the only way we're able to solve it is by having the validation of YC. I forget what the other part of the question was.
What were the challenges you faced trying to scale, and how did you go about solving them?
Yeah, so I think we're kind of in the middle of that now. A lot of it is just very technical in actually um changing the way our code works to better adapt, and just making sure that the way our actual process of buy and sell or send and receive actually works. So I'll say it's just more of like a technical thing that I don't think I can really get into right now.
Okay. And I think we have one final question in here. As a bootcamp grad, the learning curve is quite steep, most especially in your first gig. How did you upskill from where you started to being a co-founder of Bitcoins?
Well, it happened in stages. So at first, the very first job I got was only like a 3-month contract. It was very short. So it was just like sort of like a trial thing. After that, I worked at Techabal, and I grew a lot there because I was the only developer really. So I just had to learn a whole lot. So that was really great. Um, and from there is when I got a job at a German company that was remote. And that also helped with like more validation. Even the Google Experts program came with more validation. That helped me even grow more. But what I would say is the blogging and the speaking definitely helped a lot, because coming from, like, there has to be a way for you to distinguish yourself as why you are a good developer. And I think having a blog is just almost an invaluable way to do that, because basically every single job I got, even from that first job, was from someone like the employers had seen my blog, and that's how they said, "Oh wow, look at this person, what's she doing?" Or I've even used this before. So obviously, if I've used her writing, that means like she knows what she's talking about, and we can actually work together. Same thing with the German company. It was like I put out on Twitter that I was looking for a job, and luckily a lot of people like retweeted that, and the company even reached out to me and said, "Oh, I've actually even read your blog, I see that you're looking for work." And that's how I ended up with the job. So putting yourself out there is really important, especially as women, which I think the previous speaker was talking about. We don't necessarily really like to put ourselves out there that much, but it's so important because there's loads of developers, and there has to be a way for you to show that you know what you do and just distinguish yourself. So I'll definitely say doing those things. Blogging is just like the most important thing.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today, Ray. Those are all the questions we have. So you guys should definitely check out their site when they have internship program open. Thank you for coming in today. This is the last of the conversation that we have, and we hope to do something soon and keep up our programs and events. So watch out from our side. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. So you guys, we've pretty much come to our end to our Fireside series. Keep up with our social media accounts. You know, we do have a bunch of programs and things we're working towards. Feel free to our speakers on Twitter or any or the social platforms that we have. I'm sure they have great insights. Thank you for coming in today. Also, let me add Flora in here. But yeah, Flora, do you have anything to say?
I just wanted to pop in here and say, thank you. I personally have learned so much from listening to the, conversations today. And I hope everyone in the audience to have taken something away from our conversations, experienced developers, bootcamp grads, people that are starting out or looking for internships. Some great advices were, put on here today. And, let's try as women or as men to, take advantage, of this information and also, spread the awareness and, spread the love, and let's continue to grow together as a community. One of my other ideas was to revitalize our Slack channel. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, we'll send out invites to those who were able to make it today to join our Slack group. Hopefully our speakers who made it today as well will be part of that Slack group. So if anyone has information on events, job opportunities, random facts, let's all share it in the Slack group and let's all grow together as a community. I think I, myself, and Gabby will try and set that up with the other operations lead at WeTech. We'll try and set up a Slack channel for you guys to keep communicating and networking. But once again, thank you all for being here.
Yeah. And also, follow us. We're definitely working with more programs and opportunities. So it's growing. We're definitely, as soon as this COVID situation gets better, we definitely are planning our conference. That's something we're already working towards this year. But, we'll keep moving. We're still planning. And as soon as the situation, gets better, that is something you should definitely watch out for. So we're going offline now. Thank you for coming here today.
Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye. Bye.